What's going on, everybody? Have you ever wondered what it's like to play baseball at an elite level over and over again, experience success, and do so for a leader of men? Today, I am joined by Nick Mingione, the head coach of the Kentucky Wildcats. Coach, how are you doing?
Oh, doing great. Thank you for the opportunity to join you today.
Of course, of course, of course. It's been awesome to see the success that you guys have been, able to have in your 8 seasons at the helm. I wanted to ask you some questions about your leadership style, how you're able to, command the most out of your young men and your teams year after year, perform at the highest level consistently, and do so in a way that protects the integrity of the game, may I say. It is a fantastic brand of baseball. You let guys have personality. You let guys, stand out in their own unique ways and be themselves, but also just, put forth the most out of everything that they have, man. I'd love to just jump into it and talk about your leadership, if that's all right with you, before we get into kind of recapping this past year and the insane success you guys had, man. First and foremost, in the locker room, team chemistry. Kentucky is a hotbed for talent and a hotbed for top tier college baseball, man. The portal is prevalent in today's game. You guys can have guys coming in that haven't had any type of chemistry on or off the field. Man, you're bringing in new coaches. Just Chase Sloan just came in here. How are you going to command the most out of your guys and be the type of leader that draws everybody out and makes everybody kind of mesh together and perform? Are there any specific practices that you have in team building, bonding, and all this chemistry?
Well, you know this, but uh, that is something that takes a tremendous amount of time, but also intentional effort. So, one thing I've always said is like our culture is super important to us, but the people in our program is what makes Kentucky special. So, for example, when our freshmen move in, we don't have a deal where it's like, oh, you're freshmen, like, hey man, I'm a senior, you're a freshman. Like, we don't do that. Like, I truly believe to have a championship culture that everyone in your program needs to feel appreciated. Everyone from the people that clean your facility all the way up to the coaches and the players, like they all have to feel a sense of appreciation and they have to understand that their value is important. So, one thing for us is the upperclassmen do an unbelievable job of just making these first year players feel a part of our program. They have them over at their houses and they're hanging out and they're spending time. And it's like, so championship culture, you have to do two things. You have to place a high value on relationships, but also results. So not only are you going to have a great relationship with each other, your coaches, but you do have to place a high emphasis on results where we are working towards a common goal. So, all those things are super important. We talk about family in our program. So, we have the team over at my house. They hang out, they fish, they paddleboard, they kayak, they play pickleball in our cul-de-sac, like you name it. But we do things off the field to help build and make our culture and our family become a family.
What's going on, everybody? We as baseball players, we as athletes, we all have something in common that we all share with one another. At some point, our careers are going to come to an end, whether we play 15 years in the league or whether we don't make it past high school or college. This is called the Money Playbook. So, this teaches financial concepts for student athletes, for professional athletes. It's got a bunch of financial concepts in there that I didn't learn until I was done playing. Go on over to Amazon and check it out. It's called The Money Playbook. It's written by Mark Tepper, who is an NFLPA registered investment advisor. So he has worked with a plethora of professional athletes. Like I said, go to Amazon. We'll leave the link in the bio and the description of this episode. It's a must-have. Check it out. Let me know what you think. We talked about it a little bit in the intro. With great success comes great responsibility. All eyes are on you. Players want to come in and play for you. That it's elite level baseball year after year. It's absolutely fantastic. With that, I was a walk on in college, so I feel like being on the outside looking in and looking up to a top tier program, it's like, man, I might be a little nervous. I might be coming in there and I might not be myself, try to maybe be somebody I'm not, tone down my personality, try to be quiet, maybe fit a mold. Man, you guys are getting after it in the dugout. You guys are getting weird in the dugout. I wanted to talk a little bit about how you're able to keep it light, keep it at an elite level if it's about success and about winning, but also keep that mesh of personality. Man, you have a dugout captain making sure everybody's kind of up, with the attitude and just how they're going about their business, man. Can you touch on that a little bit?
Yeah, so the first thing I tell our guys is like your identity is not wrapped up in this sport. Like it can't. It cannot be. And I think anytime you have people that just put their full identity into baseball, it's a really scary thing because what happens when you get injured or you get hurt? Then it's like, what do you have? You've lost everything you have, your whole identity. So the first thing I do is I remind them, like, hey man, like you are Ian Miller who happens to play baseball. Like you're not like Ian Miller, the baseball player. Like, no, dude,
I
like
like it.
you're Ian Miller, like who just happens to be amazing at baseball and God's gifted you with all these talents and skills, so you're just using them. So baseball
Mm,
is a platform for maybe you to reach some of your goals and to impact other people's lives. So that I think is super important for them to understand. And then as far as our dugout goes, like I want them to do two things. Number one, I want them to compete. I want them to compete at the highest level, but then also I want them to have fun. Like, who said you can't compete and have fun at the same time? Right. And when you have a dugout full of people that want to compete super hard and they want to have fun doing it, well, how do you do that? Well, you got to have focus at the highest level. You know this. There's just so many pitches and moments that happen in a game. There's going to be roughly between 300 and 375 moments in that baseball game with every pitch. Well, you have to focus for those moments. But then also, you got to have fun while you're doing it because if you just sit there and you look at the amount of live time our game, it takes roughly 3 hours to play a game. But if you really go live action, it's only about maybe 20 minutes. Right? So it's like but so what are you doing those other times? Well, you better be having a good time, man. But
mm.
most importantly, you better be competing, you better be having fun and supporting your teammates. So we allow them to be the best versions of themselves. So we have guys, pitchers in our dugouts, they're wearing eye black. Like, all right, cool, dude. If you think that helps the team, go for it, man. Like,
I love that.
if you want to celebrate and spray water on a guy every time he scores a run, like, because you're happy for him, go do it, man. Celebrate it. But you got to compete and you have to have fun at the same time.
That fires me up. I feel like as my career progressed, the higher that I got, I tried to fit a mold. That's why I wanted to ask you about it. I tried to blend in as opposed to fit into the piece, right? I tried to tone it all down, maybe keep my mouth closed, not interact the way that I would from where I came from, and just it became exhausting, man. So I love seeing it in the way that Kentucky plays baseball, the energy, man, on the field, in the dugout, even post game conferences, pre. It's awesome. I think it's fantastic. It's like this weird. I'm coming from old school mentality, even though I'm 32 years old. It's like, okay, hit a home run. I'm not going to pimp it. I'm not going to bat flip. I'm going to try to keep my mouth closed, not fire it up. Man, the game's changing, and like it's cool to show personality. It's cool to show emotion. And obviously, there's beneficial ways to do it, man. I just wanted to highlight that. I thought that was awesome how you guys go about your business, and how you guys have a dugout captain and you have certain ways of going about stuff, keeping guys entertained and just having fun, man. It's awesome. It's an awesome brand of baseball. So I also wanted to leverage that into, man, the success that you guys had this year. So program record 46 wins, which is insane. And on the offensive side of things, you had 30 SEC games with a 300, excuse me, 307 batting average. So you guys are putting the ball in play. You guys are putting the ball in play with authority. You're getting on base, man, but you're not just a one trick pony. So in 8 years under your leadership, there's been 684 stolen bases and 783 attempts. So you guys are kind of a multifaceted offense, if you will, that is able to do multiple things in multiple situations and beat you in multiple ways, man. Is that something that you specifically recruit for? Is there, defensive versatility that you take into it, maybe being a utility player, plugging you at multiple spots? There's a chance for, 30-30. Like, man, how do you recruit your guys in order to be able to do this in the SEC?
Yeah, well, I think it starts with you having a plan and you understanding what are you trying to do offensively and what wins, right? So what wins here at Kentucky Proud Park, what wins here in the SEC. And quite frankly, we play a style of baseball that might be a little different than some of the other teams in our league. And we're trying to create pressure. So our whole deal is, how can we create pressure on our opponents? What does that look like? And I often say that we are a whatever it takes type of offense. So what does that mean? If we need to get a base hit or drive the ball to the backside of the field, we can certainly do that. If that means we got to hit the ball at the ballpark, we can certainly do that. If that means we got to lay down a bunt, we can certainly do that. If it means we got to steal a base, we can certainly do that. If it means we got to go extra bases and go first to third or first to home and just push the envelope, we can certainly do that because we have the personnel. So with that, you have to have a plan, right? Like, what are you looking for, especially during the evaluation and the recruiting process? So you know this. There's 5 tools: the run, hit, field, throw, and power. And the makeup would be the 6th tool. And we're trying to find guys that can fit that skill with those tools in those certain positions. So for us, we pride ourselves on pitchers that are attacked the strike zone. They're the tip of our spear, and they're just trying to ram the ball in the strike zone. And with that, you got to have guys that can defend, right? So we place a high level of defense. 2 years ago, we led the country in fielding percentage, and so we want to be able to pitch and defend at the field at a super high level. Then offensively, we want to do whatever it takes. So during the evaluation process, we are looking for people that love to do that, that their skill set shows that, it fits that, and they want to be a part of an offense and a team that's something bigger than themselves.
Mm,
And when we identify that and we identify the skill level, the makeup, we go after them and we just plug them in and let them go play free and compete their hearts out and have fun.
that's fantastic. So we've talked about obviously the success that you've been able to have on the field and maybe what goes into that a little bit. I wanted to turn this maybe over towards the mental game, but first hit on what your practice environments are like. So we've always heard playing at a championship level requires practicing consistently at a championship level. You opened up with talking about being intentional on how you go about your business. Man, what are your practice environments like? Are you guys training to fail? Are you getting absolutely after it in practice, or is it more so, feel good BP, feel good practice? Is that an even mix, man? How do you do that?
Yeah. So the way we start our practice every day, we start with a quote of the day. So I love quotes. I absolutely love them. Huge fan of them. My coaches did this when I was in college. So we start with a quote today because you hit on it. There's 5 levels that we have to develop them: mentally, physically, behaviorally, technically, and tactically. And then you could even throw in spiritually, right? But out of those levels, that mental piece is really big. So to try to get them in the right mental frame of mind as they're getting ready to start practice is so important to me, because what they got going on off the field with classes and girlfriends and all the other stuff that they got going on, we need them to have the highest level of focus when we're there. So each day we start with a quote a day. Um, the players do that, and then immediately when we get done with our warm up, we actually have a challenge of the day where we immediately challenge them. Boom, we're right into compete mode, because I want them to do 2 things at practice. I want them to compete their hearts out, but I also want them to learn. So if we can do those 2 things during our practice, I feel really good about what we're going to be able to accomplish. And when it's all said and done, we can ask ourselves, like, did we compete at the highest level during practice? And what did we learn? And to me, those 2 things are really good. So we have standards in our program. I love the saying, the standard is the standard. So we have those, and we're trying to meet those standards. And if you're able to meet those, we know what that looks like from the SEC level, and we know what that looks like on a national level. So we're holding them to those standards. And how do we do that? How do we hold them to the standards? We do it 2 ways: through love and accountability. So for us, it's like, we're going to love on our players. That's what we're called to do, but we're also going to hold them accountable. And they've got to meet the standard. And if you don't, then you don't win. So, but they love that. They love competing. They love having fun, and they love knowing what the standard is and trying to shoot for it every day.
Yes. I love the quotes, man. Love how you're starting the day off with that. So to be a successful baseball player, it is measured in 3 hits and 10 ABs, right? So you're a 300 hitter. You play the game for a long time, hopefully, right? God willing, you make generational wealth for you and your family. You're an all-star. You play the game until you don't want to anymore. But you're still wrapped up in so much failure. You're still failing 7 times out of 10. Um, Playing in the SEC and playing the caliber of teams that you guys play consistently over and over, season after season, you guys are wrapped up in outs, failure, even if it is in the win column at the end of the game. How do you guys deal with that? Do you have any sort of practices or mindfulness practices or routines or what is it, techniques, whether it's meditation. Like how do you guys attack the mindfulness stuff and the winning mentality off the field?
Yeah, so as it relates to the offensive side, which I feel like we're talking about here, is, I think for us to get their minds off of the results, right? I think anytime that their focus is on just the actual result of maybe accomplishing or trying to get a hit, it could be really like stressful because, like you said, I mean, all right, dude, you're gonna get a hit if you're doing really good, like 3 out of 10 times. So like for us, our focus is not on that, and it's more of them focus on getting a quality at bat. So like
Mm.
that is their whole goal. When they step up and they walk to the plate, what can they do to help our team? What can they do to help us advance and ultimately score? What's the most important thing is score runs. Like this game offensively is about scoring runs, right? And if you're a pitching and defensive guy, you're going to say it's about run prevention. So it's like run production and run prevention. Like these are two things that are super important. So for us, what we try to do is we help them and we make sure that they memorize and know what the ways to get a quality at bat are. And it's like that's how we're measuring their offensive success is through the quality at bats.
Amazing, awesome stuff. I wanted to talk a little bit now that we're talking about off the field stuff, man. In the off the field baseball player's life, right? So it's being an SEC baseball player, playing for a top 5 program in the country, playing for a coach of your caliber in the SEC. Man, it's they have a ton of responsibilities, and they are thrust into the grown man lifestyle quickly, as you will, and it's they have all these responsibilities on and off the field opportunities, whether it's NIL opportunities. Athletes have they have the ability to potentially make money now, and it really wasn't like that when I was in school, man. Do you guys have any sort of education or stuff that they can learn about this stuff and how to properly go about their day-to-day life and the stresses and the responsibilities of being a Kentucky baseball player, and what that entails?
Yeah. Well, one of the unique things about Kentucky is our athletic director has been here for over 20 years. His name is Mitch Barnhart, and he's actually the second longest tenured athletic director. And I guess we're the Power Four now, right? The Power Five is gone, but in the Power Four conferences, he is the second longest tenured athletic director. And try being you think it's hard being a head coach in the SEC for a sport? Try being the guy that's in charge of 23 of them. So he's clearly doing something right. And what he has done is he has created what we have on Kentucky's athletic department as the student athlete experience division. And these people are dedicating their lives to educate our student athletes on all the things you just mentioned
It's awesome.
that happen off the field. So we have all these coaches and support staff that we help with them on the field. Well, it's just as important to develop them off the field because under NCAA rules, we're not allowed to be with them 4 hours a day, right? Like that's max during the season. So what's happening the other 20?
Yeah,
What are they doing? So this student athlete experience division has been designed to help educate them on all the things you mentioned, whether it's NIL, whether it's how to set up and start saving for retirement and how to manage their money and how to manage your time. And we bring people in all throughout the year that our student athletes are actually required to attend. So we can not only help them on the field, but we're going to help them off the field. And so when you look at the success of our teams on our campus, there's been some serious intentional effort, resources, time put into not only helping them develop on the field, but to your point, like all the things off the field, whether it's nutrition, we have a nutrition lab where we have dietitians and people that teach them how to cook and like you name it, all these things are in place to help them for not only life here, but then even life after their sport.
yeah, that's electric right there. There's so much. Obviously, with great power comes great responsibility. We talked about that already. All eyes are on you guys. So man, the opportunities that are available to these young men, like they grow up quick, and man, it's cool to see what you guys are able to do, the success on the field and off the field. Wanted to talk a little bit about the transfer portal. So the game is evolving a little bit. There's changes being made, obviously, to scholarships and roster sizes and stuff. Man, that the portal has been a hot craze in the past couple seasons, man. What do you got on it, and what's your take on it on today's game? What's it doing? Is it a positive? Is it a benefit? Like how do you see it?
Yeah, transfer portal is a good thing, and here's why. It provides student athletes with experiences and opportunities. So, for example, um, we had a guy in our program. He's been here 2 years, and he just hasn't been able to crack the starting lineup. Right? Well, now, to his credit, like he loves this place. He loved it. We had a great experience, unbelievable relationship. Think the world of this kid and his family. But you know what? He doesn't want to maybe go on a third year of not cracking the lineup. So what can he do now? He can enter his name in a transfer portal and find a school where he can play more, right? So
For
it's
sure.
like that is a good thing. Um, is it hard sometimes that, man, we invested all this time, effort, and energy into somebody and their development, and then they just decide, hey, you know what, I want to go somewhere else. Yes, that can be hard. So like anything, there could be good and bad with it. But what it does do is it provides the student athletes with opportunities, and if they're seeking to go somewhere else, they're going to have that opportunity. Does it does it help them if they go to 4 different schools in 4 years? That one's probably hard for me to swallow.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, ultimately, like, man, hopefully they could find a spot where they can feel comfortable, but when I think of the transfer portal, I think of the word opportunity.
Yeah, yeah, and opportunity is something obviously that is sought after in the SEC, is sought after for a program like yours. It's yeah, opportunity is obviously key. So on that opportunity piece, when we're talking about recruiting and hopefully being extended some sort of opportunity at a program of your caliber, and I don't necessarily want to ask you an open-ended question about what you're looking for, right? Obviously, I think it's pretty apparent what you are looking for. What about red flags when you are recruiting somebody or you or your staff are going to see somebody? What is a red flag that would make you say, "Hey, I am out on this guy," or "Hey, he's not doing something like this what I'm looking like." What is a red flag when it comes to recruiting?
Well, there's a couple, and it depends on like who and what you're evaluating, right? So, for example, to evaluate a pitcher and the dude throws really hard, but he can't throw a strike, that could be a red flag because velocity will get you the opportunity, but you be able to throw strikes is going to get you to go back out there,
Yes.
right? So it's like, you know, to evaluate a guy that all I've ever seen him do is throw a ball into a net and there's no catcher and there's no hitter. It's like timeout. Like, where's the live action? You know what I mean? Um, so excuse me. So I think for a positional player or even a pitcher, I'll just use one of my favorite quotes: "Is you learn a lot about somebody by the way they act when things don't go their way."
Mm,
And there's a difference in getting mad, and there's a difference in being soft. So trying to evaluate and differentiate between those two. It's like, no problem. Like, I understand, like, dude, you're going to get mad. That's totally fine, but we're not going to be soft. We're not going to be lazy. We're not going to be selfish. So as we start doing some of this background and some of these makeup, checklist and, background checks on them, if any part of them is soft, lazy, selfish, it just doesn't go good. If there are people that have an opportunity or have the tendency to just whine, complain, and make excuses, no good. Like, red flags. Like, we don't appreciate those six things: the whining, complaining, excuses, soft, lazy, selfish. Like, those are some major red flags in our book.
yeah, that makes sense. When you are evaluating these guys and trying to dive a little bit deeper into what type of player they are, where they come from, who they are kind of at their core, how do you guys go about unearthing that information? Let's say if you deem somebody, athletically worthy of your interest, right? You're going to go out and check them out. Does that look like maybe showing up to a couple games? Does that look like hitting a tournament? Is there a specific way that you dive deep into these players aside from just in person?
Well, outside of person, I mean, there's so much video available now.
Mm,
Like, it's remarkable. So the amount of attention that we pay to the video is just absolutely incredible. So we take a deep dive into watching any video, whether it's not only them doing good, but them doing bad, whether it be studying their body language or anything like that. So we watch a ton of video. And then also, like, in order to recruit somebody, we're going to have to talk to a coach.
mm.
And there's going to have to be a coach that's willing to risk their reputation on this person, right? So if they're willing to put their name and their reputation on this person, so there's a series of questions that we like to ask and just try to figure out and dive deep into. And if all that stuff checks out and we've identified them athletically, and then we see if there's a match, then we have a chance. But there is a deep dive into all those things, especially the type of person they are.
For sure. So you are obviously you are a leader of men. You are able to lead these young men, get the most out of them in competition on and off the field. Um, And so, with that, obviously, you are dealing directly with them. But there is also an influence that the parents have, either on the relationship, on the commitment, on any of these opportunities. Man, have you personally been engaged in recruiting talks, or maybe going through the recruiting process, and you've had a parent or parents negatively impact the chances of their son moving on and playing for you? Do they have they can have a negative impact on the overall process?
Oh, they absolutely do. And, I love the saying, the apple doesn't fall far from the tree. Is that true all the time? It is not. But boy, is it right a lot of the time. So when we recruit our student athletes, especially on the high school level, the parents are all super involved, and we are recruiting them as well. Typically when they get older in their kids' college career, the parents are less and less involved, right? By the time if you're meeting talking to a fifth year guy of the portal, the parents have kind of like separated themselves. But the high school parents, there's been multiple times in my career where we have said, you know what, we're not going to recruit this person anymore. We're not going to offer this kid because of the parents. That absolutely does happen.
Okay. Okay. Yeah, I'd like to put an emphasis on that, obviously, because there are a bunch of younger parents and younger coaches in my audience, the Nine Holes audience, that ask a ton of questions about that, and want to make sure that they're doing everything they can for their players, or their son. And it's sometimes it can be detrimental if it's too much. You know what I mean? So I wanted to make sure I brought that up. Moving forward, Coach. Again, I'm extremely grateful for your time. Thank you for being here today on the Nine Hole. Just to wrap up, man, looking forward, right? So we talked a whole lot about the past success, what players can do to come and hopefully play for a coach of your caliber one day, for a program of your caliber. So you just guided the program to the first ever College World Series. Man, had a fantastic year, SEC Coach of the Year. Um, Looking forward, what do you guys need to be able to do this year in order to have that same level of success, and if not more? Like, what is a definite area of focus that you're going to need your team to be able to execute on that will make this season stellar?
Well, for our guys to remind them that like that team and that season that's expired. It's over.
Mm,
Like today's a new day. Today's a new opportunity. This fall's a new opportunity. This spring's a whole new opportunity. So obviously our team's going to look totally different. We had 9 guys sign pro contracts. I mean, we had 9 guys move on. So that's going to look totally different. But obviously, ever since I've gotten here, the standard has always been to be national champions, and we haven't reached that goal yet. Did we reach the goal of knocking down the door and being the first team ever to make it to the College World Series? Absolutely, we did. But the work's not done. And even after we accomplished the goal of winning a national championship, you know what? The next year, you got to start over.
yes,
Like
sir.
it's a whole new team and all new season. So we're going to spend a ton of time on our culture. We're going to spend ton of time on them getting to become a team, and we're going to focus on the things it takes to win. And ultimately, if we do that, then we're going to have a chance to win. But our focus is going to be on our team, it's going to be on our family. We're going to focus on the things it takes to win. And as a result, the plan is for us to win. But time will tell on that. But we have to set the foundation every year, and we have to set the standard every single year. And if we do that, and we've done it at a pretty high level the last couple of years, and hopefully, and it doesn't mean it's a guarantee, it doesn't mean it's going to happen, but we're going to go through the proper steps in the process to do all that. And as a result, the plan is for us to win, but we are going to do it from the very beginning, the
Love it.
second they show up on campus.
I love that. Setting standards, trusting the process, believing in the process, not focusing so much on the results day by day. Absolutely fabulous, Coach. Appreciate your time. Last question I got for you. When you think about the nine hole, especially in your lineup, when you think about a good nine hole hitter, what does that player need to be able to do?
Yeah. Well, I think, the one thing I tell our team, and I've told them this before, a lot of people are like, "Hey, man, what about the Friday night starter? Like, who's your most important pitcher?" And for me, the most important pitcher is the guy on the mound at that time. Who's the
Mhm.
most important hitter in our lineup? It's the guy that's in the box at that time. So for me, just for them to understand, like, hey, whether you're batting 9 hole or leadoff, like, I love your whole story, by the way, just like reading about you and what you're trying to do. um,
Thank you, man.
it's just amazing. It's amazing. But just like anybody else, I want our 9 hole hitter to just focus on doing whatever they can to help our team and get a quality at bat.
I
And
love it.
their job is to just turn that thing over, man. Like, we're going to turn this thing over, we're going to keep this train going. So I want our 9 hole hitter to be locked in and do whatever he can to help our team and to serve our team in any possible way, whatever that looks like. You just do whatever you can to help our team, and we'll let the results be what they are. But your focus is on doing what you can. And I also say this too, and you know this better than anyone. Like, you played at the highest level. Like, you have to be able to do what the game demands at that moment. So whatever that game demands, it's like, bam, you've got to be able to do it, and be able to do it at a high level,
Yes,
and
sir.
compete and have fun while you're doing it.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Nick, thank you so much.
Oh yeah,
Man, this has been absolutely incredible. Again, here with Nick Mingione, the head coach, Kentucky Wildcats. Absolute stellar year. Looking forward to seeing the continued success that you boys have. Thank you so much again for your time, coach.
no, you're welcome, and thanks for all you're doing to help grow our game and to educate people. It's affected a lot of people's lives, so keep going.
Yes, sir. Thank you, guys. Appreciate you for tuning in. We'll catch you back here next time.